Hey everyone, today we are doing froggy maintenance. Right now we are flushing out the ponds. You see, kind of squishy around here. First we are flushing out this pond, which doesn't really need much maintenance anymore since something came along and ate probably close to 90% of the tadpoles we stocked in here. But that's alright, that's the natural cycle. In the wild, less than 1% usually goes on to reproduce from all those thousands of eggs, and the majority, only like 2 or 3%, will even make it to a frog. But you see in here, little pellets, other pellets. I gotta not feed this pond as much because there's not many in there anymore. Who knows what could have ate it? Birds, raccoons, who knows? So this is the easiest pond to flush, because I drilled a hole in it, and with some sheet metal screws I have attached a piece of filter so you don't have to worry about tadpoles slipping out. When I first started this, I was letting it go over the top really slow, but a few tadpoles did get lost that way, so that's why we created this new solution. And look at the tiny little slug right there. Little slug. Oh, you saw that? And there's a spider friend up there too. So if we look underneath the water, you see it's growing lots of slime and algae, basically natural food. And for the amount of tadpoles still left in this little pool, they could probably get along without any of our food. I would say there's maybe only 30 in here max from the probably 500 we stocked. The fountain's running pretty good, but if you notice when I started the video, it wasn't running. That's because this entire week we have very cool weather in the 50s. Getting down in the upper 30s and lower 40s at night. Lots of cool, wet weather. Perfect for trees and things to recover, become full and dense. The forest is starting to fill in nice. And look how high the goldenrod back here is getting. That's the stuff that gives people allergies, similar to ragweed. A lot of people call it that. They don't know the difference. So this thing in here, you see that white flag? It's got a picture of a ladybug on it. That's from the dollar store. You see, it was on this little pole right here, but it kept blowing off in the wind, and somehow it flipped up into here, and I just left it because it's growing lots of algae and stuff. Got the cattails, which help purify the water. We got this ladder system here, so the frogs can get out of here, or any animal that might fall in it so it doesn't drown. I have found a squirrel once in a trash can that got in there and drowned. That was one of the first things I found on this property when I first got here. Trash can was wide open, dead squirrel in it. So that's why my dad taught me to build these things on every bucket that holds water outside so animals can get out of it. That slug's moving away. So this pond right here, we have the hose almost on full blast. We just let it run for close to an hour. And as it comes in, it's slowly temperature acclimating them. But this water, it's not city water. Thankfully, we don't have to pay a water bill. All we got to pay for is the electric pump to run down in the bottom of the well, pressure tank, that kind of stuff, which is considerably cheaper for the amount of water we use. The average person with a well, that may be arguable, because the cost of the equipment breaking down to the cost of a water bill, that may be arguable. But because we use so much in the amount of time, we're definitely getting more out of the equipment. Yeah, so that's basically the only water bill. Wells can last such a long time. My grandfather has one that's 40 years old, original pump. This house may have its original, I don't know, but a well can be a couple $1,000s to replace the pump in the bottom of it. And they can last decades. Some of them only last a year. It all depends on what kind you get. A pressure tank is about $800–900, and those things tend to last about 8 years. We have filters in the basement that you're supposed to change out every 3 months. I put a brand new filter in there, and it's bright orange after a week. Iron oxidizing bacteria takes over. I don't have a water softener. Never really found it necessary. That would extend the life of appliances and faucet fixtures, toilets, that kind of stuff. But our water's really only orange during the spring thaw or after a huge rainstorm. It flushes things into the well. That's about it. I haven't really found a giant issue with the orange rings around the toilet and stuff. Only during those times I just mentioned. But a water softening system would be another couple grand every 8 or 10 years. And those you have to pour a giant bag of salt in it, I believe, every 500 gallons. That's how it bonds with the minerals. And every now and then it'll dump all that salt into the septic system, which I don't think is a great thing either. That's one of the reasons I never did that. So I'm glad we don't have city water. And city water doesn't have chlorine. You can put it right into here. Now with fish tanks and ponds, you can put a little bit of chlorinated water in there, like maybe a 10-30% water change, but not all at once. Especially if you have aeration and fountains going, the movement of the water helps evaporate the chlorine even faster. But sitting water, usually the rule is 24 hours it'll be completely evaporated. Like if you set up a new aquarium, or some people, if they want to do a water change on like a fish bowl, they'll let it sit in buckets just overnight and all the chlorine should evaporate. But this is what we're doing flushes on all the ponds. This pond, the water was bright green, like foggy green when I started. Now that it's clearing up, we're about to go shut the water off, and we're going to move this to the next pond. The other ponds are in the ground, so it wouldn't be possible to put a system like this in, so we just let it trickle really slow over the edge, but they can't fall out because there's a grass barrier when they're set in the ground. Just let it go really slow, and when we shut it off, some little ones can get beached on the coast, so we just do that as the water goes back down to the pond edge. Now, I thought I found a miracle product 2 weeks ago. I bought these, I think they're Cobalt hoses from Lowe's. They are 6-sided. I thought I found a miracle product because I have a 6-sided Sears Craftsman hose that's 30 years old, real rubber, zero dry rot, still fully functional after 30 years. This hose, I gotta say, I don't like it. I almost consider returning it, but I think I'm gonna swap this out for some of the stationary hoses I have in the yard. What I mean by stationary hoses, hoses that go across the yard to supply gardens. I have them set up to sprinkler timers, and they only get moved when I have to mow the lawn. Sprinkler timers are awesome. This is the first year I've ever actually used them, and I have them programmed. One comes on at 6 to 7, and one 6 to 7 is the garden. If you see me built with all the extra seeds just to see what would grow, that gets watered every day for an hour. And then there's an hour break in the sprinkler timer so I can manually water things or do things with the water myself, because you can't shower or anything. It uses so much pressure. Then I have the other system, 8 to 9, the big garden you saw me build. Yeah, those work good, but this week it's cool and rainy, so I shut the water off. The sprinkler timer, you can hear it still click, but it's not turning anything on. Just a waste, and you don't want to overwater certain plants. Yeah, this week it's overcast, it's really cool and rainy. You see a lot of the fountains, despite this one here usually working in the shade, it's not doing that this time. It's just too shady, and I might have to start trimming around these. I put the patio block so I wouldn't have to trim as often, but I think next time I get the lawnmower out, I'll just mow a little spot and put everything back. You see, I just pulled this over to the next pond to start slowly flushing this, and you see it's not flowing. Kink, 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 almost a kink. Usually with high-end hoses, you don't get kinking, and this was a high-end $50-something hose for each of these sections. I am not happy about that. When you buy a hose that advertises being kink-free, you don't expect this. But I have found, out of all my hoses I've recently purchased, the best one is Home Depot's Green Flexzilla hose. Doesn't kink when you yank it. All the hose kinks come right on out of it. That would probably be the best one. Yeah, you can see, because I mowed last week when it was 95, it slightly burnt it. But this nice cold week, it'll brighten right back up. And vinegar is a miracle product. Look at this. I put I put what did I just say? I got confused. I thought I was speaking about Miracle-Gro. So this is what happens when you put vinegar on the perimeter of the gardens. You see, it doesn't kill everything, but it did a pretty good job. Pretty good job for vinegar. Now, people have told me Home Depot sells 30% vinegar, which is stronger strength. I might give that a try. And people also told me to put a little bit of dish soap in the mixture of the pump sprayer, maybe even a little bit of salt to help it. Now, I know what you guys are talking about with the dish soap. People told me to put dish soap in a spray bottle, just a little drop of it like that, and then you just go and you spray it on houseplants. It sticks and bonds it to them. So when you have the dish soap and you spray the stuff, it would stick to all the leaves so it doesn't wash off. That would be even more ideal. Did a really good job for vinegar, all natural. All right, just turned the water on, got the kinks out. Now we'll let this one run for maybe an hour or two, and it'll slowly start leaking out here into the lawn. And like I said, tadpoles can get trapped in here, so we just have to push them back in when we shut the water off. You see, a bunch of them are eating and feeding in here. Once the water starts getting murky where you can't see the bottom is when we start flushing it out. Cattails are getting pretty big. This was frost damage. We had a giant deep freeze about 2 weeks ago, but I think we're good now. The air compressor works really good, but if you saw that video, it should have came with a regulating valve that I could have put on that one. Thinking about just having one air stone, but that works good, and it has a battery backup. The battery backup hasn't been doing that well in these shady days. You need full sun, I think, to charge the battery up inside of that. And you see this right here is clogged. I think I'm going to do what some people recommended. Some people recommended maybe I can make a better filter. Usually I just come around here. Hey, there's a tadpole in there that got killed. It looks like it held them onto there. So what I'm thinking about is getting a bigger filter cartridge with a big zip tie right around it so it has a bigger area that it has to clog up. But usually just doing that. Now, once it primes, it should be going pretty well. I hear it. Why aren't you priming? I hear it doing something. Maybe it's clogged internally this time. That's usually not the case. Let's see if we can get that off. Here we go. Yeah, there's another tadpole. It looks like it's sucked in at some point. Doesn't look like much debris was in there. Now maybe it'll work better. There we go. Most of the tadpoles are too big at this point to get sucked in. Look how big most of them are. They're doing well. This pond is doing the best since it's right next to my front door. I can just come out here and do this all the time. Just give them food. And this pond gets cared for the most because it's closest. All right, everyone. I'm back. It's been about maybe 70 minutes. The water really cleared up, letting it trickle. You see that right there? I just went to the post office, which is about a 70-minute round trip because mail service doesn't come out here. So you got to go pick up everything. You see how it's overflowing? A lot of times tadpoles will be in this little crevice. Doesn't look like there's any today, but as soon as we shut the water off, sometimes they get beached in these little cracks, and we just got to make sure. It looks like this water is just about clean enough. It's been going for a bit, and we'll do it again next week. Yep, so today in the mail, a bunch of signs finally showed up for the property. So I ordered a dozen of them. I ordered 2 of these ones, and there's also 10 of them that I'm going to put around the perimeter of the property that say wildlife refuge area, no trespassing, and it has a phone number with the property's address, which I will not be showing in the video. But those are going to go up, replacing the old no trespassing signs. And I made sure to get enough for the every side of the property except the front. Because no trespassing signs, they have to be a certain distance apart to hold up in a court of law. If they're not within a certain distance, which I'm going to have to research exactly what that is here, supposedly it doesn't really mean anything if you're not putting them up properly. Look how cute the baby barn swallows are. I can't be here for long. The mother will start swarming around me and attacking if she catches me here. I'm going to show you guys right now how we fill up the water feeding stations out here in the woods. I can't believe how many animals just providing some little watering stations actually attracts. So we shouldn't have to prime this. Nope, there's water in there. If we let this thing sit for like a week or two, we'd probably have to pour water in there and wait for the rubber diaphragm to expand, or you wouldn't get any compression out of it. But this is how we fill up these watering cans you see we got here. While I'm filming, I can only carry one of them, but I'm going to show you what we do. And when I come back, I'll just replenish this one. Probably every 2 weeks. This thing gets dirty enough where I have to dump it out, rub down the inside with my hands to get rid of the slime. And that one's got a ladder in case a mouse or something falls in it. When I put my camera here last year, we got bears and raccoons coming over to this thing for a drink. We're not providing any food this time of year because of the bears, but water, they still come by for that sometimes. So this is where one of the signs is going to be, right here. So behind this sign, this is a 2.5 acre section of the property that I'm just leaving untouched, except for the trail work here, and we're removing fallen trees to make more open spaces, because without the open spaces, it actually forces all the animals onto the trails, and that's the reason why we are getting so many animals walking on the trails, because it's the easiest part to walk on. They would do that anyways, but we have cleared this forest a lot from the blowdown in the winter. We're not nearly done, but that's a lot of work. That's why I've slowed down a ton. So you've maybe seen my video I posted yesterday. This little water hole here did attract some bears. Now, according to the date stamps, we probably had a mother with some babies, because there was one giant bear and there was probably 2 smaller ones. We couldn't really tell how many there were. There may have been only 1 smaller one, or there may have been 3. They were all similar in size. So I keep watering this grass hill. Don't really have to today because it's rainy, but I come out here every couple days and dump a bucket in here to replenish what's evaporating. And again, it's shady, and combined with overcast, it's really dark here. I saw in some of my trail camera footage, the raccoon was playing with this, trying to get it over to the shore. And it's doing exactly what I wanted it to. If you can tell, it's turning into a big, slimy ball. You see that? There's so much moss and slime growing on that under the water. That's the root ball from a peach tree I bought last year that died. Unfortunately, by the time I ripped it out of the ground like that, I didn't realize the Home Depot would cover it the following year if it didn't survive. But I know that for next time. It's giving the hill a little watering, and then we can put the rest of it into here. I've never really had to clean this one out. You see, the water's darker colored, but that doesn't mean it's polluted or anything, because there's nothing living in it, nothing going to the bathroom. I like that when one of my trail cameras, there was a rabbit on top of this hill eating the grass, because it's like the only grass around here. But I can see a change slowly happening in this forest. If I still live on this property in a decade, I know it's going to look very different. All the pine trees seem to be slowly dying out, and they seem to be slowly getting replaced by the maples and aspens, which can take heat and drought considerably better. Oh, look, we have a spider friend right here. Am I stuck in his web? I don't know. He's actually eating a fly. I want to zoom in on that so you guys can see it. Yeah, it's almost impossible to focus in on something like that, but this guy here just wrapped up a fly. It's almost impossible with something like that. So I did purchase some grass that's supposed to like living in swamps, and a good amount of it's coming up in this low-lying area where the water trickles under the bridge during spring thaws. Seedlings like that are a good sign. You see the grass is starting to grow here, the swamp grass seed I put, because I'm hoping the swamp grass will help provide more habitat now that this area is becoming more sunny from the pine trees thinning out and dying. That was the intention. But I love how almost every animal in the trail camera we had set up here goes across this bridge. Now all those bears, that was over a 6-week period. It's not like we have bears here all the time. That was only on a certain couple days. They were very interested in the water. And the only reason this bridge goes so far is because that big dip right there also gets soggy. This is a reuse from a deck we tore down a couple years ago. These railings are more trouble than they're worth. I just haven't been out here for a while with anything to secure them. My drill, I hit that one with the snow blower and it broke broke the screws right off. And this thing right here, the bear sniffed it in the trail camera footage. Last year the bear came by and he grabbed it with his teeth and just knocked it over. He was very playful, it appeared. That was the same bear last year on the trail camera, was just sitting here like a dog waiting for a while. So I bring it back here, I hold it with one hand and pump it, and that's how it's done. Put it back here. I also use these same watering cans to water the garden that I have right back here. Yep, there's the well there. You see we already got all our lettuce and stuff starting to come up in here. Yep, there's the well there. We already got lettuce and stuff starting to come up in the garden. This is what I use the watering cans for. These plants, I believe those are zucchinis. Put them in this planter, but they can stretch across the lawn as much as they want, and I just mow around them until the fall when they die out. Look how well the vinegar did around the garden. Did very well. There's only very isolated areas, isolated clumps of grass that didn't kill. I just think we need another round. I recommend using a pump sprayer. You're very accurate, and you see I didn't kill anything in the garden. I just killed exactly where it was sprayed. Right here we got, these are asparagus coming up. Whether they'll survive, I'm not sure. But asparagus takes a couple years to start producing where you can eat it. So these have to come in the house. And you see right here we have a slug that wants to eat some of this. That's why we are creating slug traps. I might regret what I just did. If anyone's ever handled slugs before, you pick them up with wet hands, you throw them and you're fine. You pick them up with dry hands, you now got slime that's hard to get off. Yeah, if I notice a lot of bite marks and stuff with slugs, I'll make more beer traps. And we do have natural deterrents for them. I haven't used them yet. Hasn't been a problem yet, but we're waiting on that. We're back over to this pond. It's now been over 2 hours and it's nice and crystal clear. And these guys must be full because otherwise they'd be up here nibbling on those pellets. But more than half of the pellets I supplied are gone. Now we're just going to go ahead and knock this out of here. And I have to go, and as this goes down, make sure none of them are here. You see there's a couple hanging out in there now. There wasn't before. But letting this thing slowly replenish itself over 2 hours, make sure they don't get shocked by the temperature change because the pond is considerably warmer than the water coming out of the ground. But the water coming out of the ground is groundwater, so it's not like chlorine or anything. It's perfect for them. There was a big frog here the other day that I assumed was eating some, but I didn't notice a dent in population, and that big frog is gone. Now we're going to take a trip to another pond I'm going to drag this hose over to and start replenishing it. All right, here we are at this pond. Just started replenishing it. We'll let that go for about 2 hours. You see it's pretty foggy. Maybe it's not showing up on camera because it would look dark regardless. The water's a bit foggy. I fed them earlier, but they're obviously full. I feed them a ton the day and the day prior of doing this because that means they'll poop a lot, and now we're dumping out a lot of it. This little bowl's here because sometimes a frog likes to sit in there, or things can drink out of it, because that water is considerably cleaner than here. And, oh, that was a little tiny frog. See, it's just going to spill over this edge. This edge is built up higher with dirt so it can absorb in there. And here, there's never been really tadpoles hanging out, but we'll check for them anyways. It's too shady today and rainy for that solar panel to operate the pump that goes through the moss filter. But I think that slime that's growing looks really cool. Or you may think it looks really gross. But it doesn't look like most of these fountains are able to operate because it's just too cloudy today. Well, that one's trying to operate. That might just need to be unclogged. We'll look into that one. We'll let this thing run for about 2 hours. Then we're going to flush the big pond, which we only do about every 2 or 3 weeks. And I honestly don't even think it needs a flushing, but we want to replenish it a little bit. I think that one's almost able to sustain itself because it's so big. Here we are down to the big pond. Now this thing would be self-sustaining if it wasn't for the amount of tadpoles we put into here. The same thing going for the smaller ponds. If there was only a couple dozen in there, you probably would never have to do it. The biological cycle would take care of it. But give it another 2 months, other frogs and birds will pick off most of them. Like I said at the beginning of the video, it's natural for the majority of them to be eaten. They are a prey animal. It's natural. But look, our solar-powered air pump is actually working just the same as it does any normal day. Someone said the reason it might be going bulp, bulp like that is because it's maybe not designed for that amount of pressure. It's 4 feet deep or 3.5 feet where those air stones are going down. But that fountain you saw when I started recording, that was going pretty well. But they do have some problems when it's really shady out. Oh, there it goes again. It built enough power. Now it'll run for a little bit, then it'll shut back down. So in about 2 hours, we're going to go in the basement and we're just going to... Ooh, a big frog jumped in. We are going to go... We have a 3/4 inch faucet in the basement above the sump pump pit, which is a big faucet. That can produce a lot of water coming from the well. We'll probably get our full 8 gallons per minute that we produce. And I'll let that run the good portion of the night right out of this pipe from the basement. And on the far end of the pond, we have a filter I jammed in the discharge for none of the tadpoles get sent out into the highway's drainage ditch, which you can probably hear the cars rushing by. That's about 150 feet, maybe a little bit further behind this area. Yeah, here's some of the food we throw in for the frogs. I've been trying to get rid of this one because it's older. I think tomorrow I might just throw this whole container in the big pond so they can eat out that stuff there, and then I'll recycle it. This blackberry plant, it's starting to get buds. We should have them soon. Right next door in here, rhubarb is starting to do pretty well. If we move over here, I'm still skeptical if this tomato plant will survive, but it's been a week and it's not wilting anymore. But we've been getting really cold weather also. In this area of the yard, those are my potatoes. None of them have started sprouting yet, but this is where I put all my random seeds that I didn't plant. There are dozens of different kinds of vegetable seeds. I just threw here, and then I threw an inch of soil over them all, and we'll see what grows. A lot of them are already sprouting, and you see the grass. I planted grass seed to begin with first, but these may be a problem like all you said. I never grew a garden since I've been living in the country, and these guys are everywhere compared to the city, the slugs. So I may have to look into a solution for them. When I lived in the city, a product that worked really great for us was called Sevin. You just spray it with the hose. It goes through the sprayer. It sticks to all the leaves. Once it dries, it's waterproof for a good month and it keeps everything away. But I don't think that stuff is good for groundwater. I have to research that or see if I can find something similar that'll keep those guys away. So our water table is still very high. You see the puddles around the well here. This well is used to water those potted plants I just showed you. Yep, this thing is still primed even though I haven't used it in a couple days since it's raining. We don't have to water anything now. But I use this thing almost daily when I have to water the plants. And here we are on this trail, a more swampy area of the property. You see all the pine trees look like they're doing all right because this area isn't really affected by drought. See, there's puddles. That's how high our water table is, and that's why I had to build these boardwalks. You'd sink down to your knees trying to tread through certain areas here. Got a little spider web here. You see this water gushes through here sometimes when it pours a lot. really green moss. But my property used to be a logging camp. That's why we have those random wells around here. And I think the logging camp potentially, you see how green it is down here, the swampy area of the yard? I think they may have backfilled part of the swamp for their camp. And I think that's why this area is elevated. But in recent years, because it's so dry, the elevated trees are starting to die out because they can't get as much water. But this week, it's nice and cool and rainy, and the foreseeable forecast is nice and cool, and that's making all our moss really green up. If we come down this trail further, this was our big blowdown over the winter. And over here, before I owned the property, this looks like it was another blowdown, and you see how the little seedlings are already about as tall as me, starting to take over the place. Yeah. And this is the end of the property where I'll be putting up some brown signs that say no trespassing, replacing the old yellow ones that are very ugly. These newer ones, they're reflective, but they're not as noticeable. So this is the property boundary here, going around. Made a trail going around the whole place. The only reason these trails really stay open is animals walking around. I don't come out here that often. If you're wondering, the entire property is just over 3.5 acres. I think it's exactly 3.8. And the yard that I mow around the house occupies about 0.5, maybe 0.7 acres, and the rest is wooded like this. And this is the corner of the property. Yep, that pole sticking out of the ground's the corner, and the no trespassing signs on that tree over there. And now we're coming around the back corner. I find it really relaxing out here, minus the traffic. Thankfully, that loud traffic that's always going by doesn't seem to make animals not show up. If I ever move, I need to rethink what kind of place I buy. Definitely don't want to be near a highway like this again. That would be the only reason that would make me move from this place. Because in the winter time now, when it's not as thick, you can see cars back there driving by. A few years, they might be able to see all the way to the house pretty comfortably. And that's not good for the animals or anything. Been trying to make this forest thicken up, but I don't have any other ideas than just clearing the areas that fall over, hoping more things take over. I think it's just because I notice it more. The traffic seems louder than years ago. Maybe it's because the trees are getting thinner. But back here is a very interesting part. I don't own further into here. This is the logging company's stuff. But they don't care if you walk back here. Back here is the logging company's area. Oh, look at that. We got a moose track right there. This area usually does have water sitting here if it rains a lot. And this is some of the pools that we had to get the tadpoles out of because they would have died. Oh, this looks like is this a trail by animals? No, this might be a log skidder track from years ago. So you can see right behind the yard here. And I like how the logging company didn't come within 50 feet of the boundary. That would have been worse. See back here, these trees, which are about 20 feet tall, that couldn't have been more than 10 years ago, last time they logged. And look at this, the stumps they cut didn't even rot away yet. And you see, I don't think they replanted this section of, oh, the mosquitoes are getting bad. I'm not going to be out here for long. I don't think they replanted this section because there's 0 evergreens. It's all aspen really close together, and I really like that big rock. Right here in the lawn, we have so many, I think these are called Indian paintbrushes. They'll be blooming in another week or so. They're very pretty. I remember last year I didn't mow this whole area until they were done. This has been going about a half an hour. Water doesn't look any cleaner yet, but it's already started overflowing. We'll let that go a few more hours. You know, I've never had a problem with bears or anything going after my hummingbird feeders, but I know they do with some people. So this is what I'm using now. Just get the clear stuff, because this stuff here was red. It's just unnecessary dye you're feeding them. And the device itself is already red, which will come over and attract them. I got this stuff right here. This is powder. Will mixed up with the right amount of water in this container. And this is what I'll store it in, because these need refrigeration when they're open, supposedly. Got these little cans of the stuff, which will fill my feeder up once. You don't need to save any of that. But in case the bears become a problem, I bought these things here, which I don't know if they're refillable or not, but I'm sure I'll find a way to do it with a syringe or whatever. I can refill it with this, but I can just place these on the porch. And I think the bear's unlikely to climb up there, since my porch, I chose to build it without any stairs, so you can only enter it from the outside. I did that, got rid of the original staircase, because I didn't want, exactly that reason, bear coming up onto it. Don't want to make it easy for them to get up here. Everyone, in a few weeks, I'm planning on doing some sort of camping trip. I bought this thing so I can go out for a long time without having to worry about charging anything and stuff like that. Bought this thing from Amazon. This is one of the bigger versions. They make ones that are even bigger with a 30 amp plug, and they make ones that are considerably smaller that only have one AC plug. But I thought this thing was really cool, because look at this. It can put out 1,000 watts. That can power almost everything you got. It can power a small window air conditioner. It can power a freezer, definitely. A lot of freezers only use about 100 something. I'm talking about the chest freezers. But this is cool. It came with connectors. It can charge off these two big solar panels. They open up. They're folded right now. They open up twice as big to charge this thing up. And you can, it's got the car plug. It's got every type of plug here. Well, it's got the newer type. This thing will be good. But also, when I'm not camping, I plan on keeping this in the car and using it as auxiliary. Because I can, you know, I don't have a good tolerance to sleeping in a hot car, so those are the only nights I usually get like a motel while traveling. But I think with this, I can get by. I think I'm going to have this thing powering like a box fan, somehow connected to the car ceiling above me. I feel like that would work pretty well. Maybe even a small window air conditioner if that's possible. I just don't know how long this thing is capable of running such a device. But, yep, this thing can trickle charge from your car. I just have to figure out how much it draws. My truck has a plug in the back that's 400 watts, which would charge something, I think, pretty fast. Otherwise, it also has a connector. I can charge it with the cigarette plug. Or I can even charge it. No, it does not charge with a phone charger. It's got to be a plug like this or a plug like this coming from the car to charge the thing up. I plan on using this auxiliary because I looked into different prices. Having a second battery put in my engine bay so it would be like a camper, you know, so I could use things in the car without drawing down the starting battery. That, in the installation of having someone do it, it was about the same price as this, plus I can use this for camping and other things. I thought this was better. I feel like this can also hold a lot more power than a car battery. So this device here goes for about $700, and I think this will be well worth it, especially if I don't have to get, like I said, hotel or motel rooms on big trips. I still do have to do that every now and then, you know, to wash up, but not heat related. And so, yeah, so this thing goes for about $700, and considering that, all I got to do is go 2 weeks without getting a hotel room on a big trip, and that thing's paid for. With the solar panels, that added about, this was $1,200 for the whole kit. So that should go a very long time when we're out in the wilderness and stuff for our energy needs. I thought that was really cool. Yep, so that's what we'll be doing sometime soon. I plan on doing a summer camping trip. I'll probably just use a wilderness camping site. Wilderness camping sites are very rural. They're miles apart from each other. And the ones I plan on using are so far away, you can't get to it with a single gas tank. Well, you can get there, but you're not going to get back. So that's what keeps a lot of tourists away from the place. We'll just have to bring gas cans, and we should be left alone that deep out in the wilderness. Sometime this week I plan on putting this in the yard. I need to set this up because of all the raccoons and stuff. This will keep them out of the garden. This is an electric fence, solar powered. When I got it, I let it sit out in the sun just to keep the battery fresh for winter. This whole week is cloudy and shady, not great for solar devices, so I'm going to wait until a nice sunny day, put this out to charge for a full day before we turn it on. It's got a battery backup for at night. This went for about 120 at the Tractor Supply. And as soon as we do that, I'll test it with the back of my hand to make sure it's working in a few spots. That's how you should test an electric fence. Unless you have heart problems, there you have a little thing you can just put up to it and it'll tell you if there's juice going through it. So everyone, down here in the furnace room is where we're going to go now to open the sump pump pit, and we can start sending water down to the big pond. I'm not done flushing out the small pond yet, but this will take most of the water pressure. I tried taking a shower once while sending down here, and it was not that great. Just dripping slightly. It's always hard to get this cover off of here. If I had my hands free, it'd be a lot easier. Here we go. Now I should be able to get under there. We got to keep that thing shut so potential creatures don't come up. It's been raining for the past couple days, but very, very lightly. If it was raining a lot, we'd have water already going down the pipe to the pond. Alright everyone, I just shifted that and some water's falling out. You see there's a little bit of water down there, but that's just stuff in the pit that cannot get out. And right here, that line goes down to the frog pond. Now supposedly I'm able to get 8 gallons per minute out of this. So we just go in here and stick it in here. The reason I just don't fill the pit up is because I don't want any extra erosion, if you know what I mean, behind this. Because I know for a fact when I had that drain line installed, back in here it was basically impossible to backfill. And I just don't want anything starting to, fall apart. I'm surprised this thing hasn't started running slightly with the rain this week, but I guess it's not enough. So we turn this on, and this makes it basically impossible to do anything with the rest of the house. That supplies so much water pressure right now. That'll be blasting into the frog pond, and we'll let this go probably until midnight whenever I go to bed. Replenish it a lot. Yep. Those sump pumps will probably never run again unless this drain line somehow gets clogged. But every now and then, I should test them. I should block that pipe and fill it up just to make sure pump number 1 works with this pipe, and battery backup pump with this pipe works. That's the battery backup over here. Here's a whole ton of bath bombs, which I sometimes enjoy. Those are on the discount shelf at Walmart, 90% off. Can't believe no one else bought them. Those things are usually so expensive, and those are 12 packs each. This is a heat cable, if you saw that video me putting in. That's because an ice dam formed in the pipe last year. It didn't become solid, but I had to run water through it to melt it out. And I didn't want it to completely freeze where the pumps would have to start kicking in again. So this does not run constantly. It only runs if I discover an ice dam. Just turn that on and it'll melt its way out in like a half an hour. The ice dam will be completely non-existent. But I haven't got to test that yet with an ice dam because it was a fairly warm winter after that initial ice dam we put in. And this right here is an alarm. Right here, it might be loud. How do you test it? I think I might need a pen. Is that how that works? But if this thing touches water, it sets off an alarm. There we go. That's in case you're home before it starts flooding into the basement if the pumps, for whatever reason, aren't turning on. Now let's go outside and see how much water is actually coming out of this thing. I did this because I'm still filling one of my ponds outside a little bit, and the sprinkler timer, I didn't feel like disconnecting everything, so I just don't want the sprinklers running today, so I did that at the time being. This thing right here is the step on the back of my house. We have this thing because up here where it's snowy the majority of the year. This is to bang your feet off before you come into the house. I've had times it's been cold for such a long time you actually have to shovel out underneath this because it just fills in so much. I've never seen one on anyone else's house, but most of the businesses up here have them. We still got a decent amount of water pressure coming in here. This has been running now for over an hour. The water's definitely clearing up. We'll let it run for another hour or two. Yeah, so down here, this is the one I had kinked. This black hose is connected to that red one you saw. See? I kinked it pretty well. It looks like nothing's coming out of there at all. Nothing. That's just what was stuck in here. So this is that 30-year-old Craftsman hose. I want this thing near the house. I'm going to put those junky ones down here stationary. Wow, we got a lot of water coming into the pond. Look at that. That's about 8 gallons per minute coming in here. That's adding lots of aeration along with just giving it a good flush, providing new water. Now this pond, I'm going to let it grow in. I'm not mowing anywhere near it this year. The frogs will have lots of vegetation. Now this is where the pond is eventually going to drain, right here. And then it can just flood this marshy area of the forest like it did last time. It's going to be at least probably 10 minutes before this thing starts running. But this right here will ensure none of the tadpoles get sent out. This is a piece of ridge vent I'm using as a filter. It also will filter out and their floating food pellets so they can still get to them. This is a floating piece of PVC lumber I thought frogs might want to hang out on. They do sometimes. Last year we had probably a couple dozen frogs that were on this thing at once. And we'll probably have that again once the tadpoles start turning into frogs. But I would say this year, the amount of frogs we had last fall, we still had tons of them this spring. But after mating season, the majority of them left to go to their own places. You can see a good amount of tadpoles down there in the water. Hopefully these frogs start eating these guys. They're gonna attack the garden otherwise. Like, I can't believe the amount of slugs. We got one right there. We got another one right here. Another one right there. We're just walking along on the trail. I'm probably crushing countless ones we just can't see. They're not hard to find. Those are the two I just showed. If you look down inside the grass, they're everywhere. Right there, another one there, another one there. I could find and collect hundreds of these things if I wanted to. They're everywhere. There's another two. There's another one. And they're getting big fast. Look at that. Look at the size of this frog right here. See, they're very friendly because they're used to you petting them on the head. That one's hiding now underneath the water. You can see him right down below. So this right here is my leach field. You see, this year I'm going to let most of it grow in. There's tons of wild strawberries which are going to start producing. They only get as big as a small raspberry, but they're still delicious and it attracts things that come here and eat them. And then I'll mow down everything at the end of the year. You can't let a leach field turn into a forest because of the roots. But it'll probably be 3 feet tall by the end of the year when we start mowing it over. Thanks for watching, everybody, and have a great day.